Annie Lennox, welcome to the program. Let's start at the beginning. You are an only child and you grew up in Scotland. It wasn't obvious that you were going to become this major force in rock and roll, soul, this major, major force. What was it like, first, emerging from Scotland and the neighbourhood in Aberdeen and being a woman?
Look, those are two big questions in themselves. Coming out of Scotland, for me, was a big issue because, you know, I come from a working class background, and although I had a chance to get into a good school and I had music lessons, and those were my resources really, I still had very little money. And so when I came to London, I mean, I just had to do what all poor students do, which is get a number of jobs, part-time jobs, to support myself. And it was difficult. London in the 70s was a tougher place, and it's still a tough city to exist in, especially if you have few resources. But in those days, it was quite grim. Yeah.
And as a woman, was it difficult to get into that business?
Well, interestingly enough, it's a good question because before I applied for the Royal Academy of Music, I actually had an audition for the Royal College. And apparently, they were still at the time when they were saying to women, you might be better becoming a music teacher. Well, that's what I was told. They said, you know, rather than being a performer, you might be advised to take the teaching course that we offer here, because the performing course is maybe more suited for men, less suited for women. So that's interesting.
At this point, I want to play a clip, and it's going to be Here Comes the Rain Again.
Nice.
Here comes the rain again, falling on my head like a memory, falling on my head like a new emotion. I want to walk in the open wind, I want to talk like lovers do, want to dive into your ocean. Is it raining with you?
What do you think, looking at that?
I think how much younger I was, obviously, obviously. But it's very interesting because I suppose in a way it's like everybody has their photo album, let's say, and you look at yourself from when you were a child and an adolescent and all the way, all the different parts of your life, and you look so different, obviously. But in my case, it is a little bit different because all those images that came through television screens and magazines and videos have hung around in the zeitgeist, the cultural zeitgeist. So people have a projection of who they think you might be.
Well, there you were with the orange, spiky hair, very androgynous, if not dressed as a man. I mean, what was the sort of calculation around turning up in a suit along with Dave Stewart of Eurythmics?
Well, I think it was coming from a place I thought, you know, I don't want to portray myself as a stereotypical woman. I want to find a way where I can have some power. And it was an experimentation. And the other side of it was that I was working in partnership with Dave, who's a man, obviously. And we were kind of intrigued with the notion of being and looking like equals.
And Dave was your romantic
My partner, yes.
And your music partner.
Yes, yes.
And you've described him as a really sweet man, as
Yes.
a man with whom you had absolute connection when it came to the creative side, and obviously for a while, the personal side. What was the effect on you as a person and you in your music when you broke up as a couple?
Well, it was very devastating. I think all breakups are, unless you know really clearly that that person is damaging, then you have to get away. It was just a very sad time. It was very difficult. And of course, we were both trying to move on with our lives in some way, and yet we saw each other more than maybe other people, you know.
So why did you decide to stay together creatively?
It was just obvious, but we just couldn't. No, I mean, he was my counterpart and I was his, so it was just obvious. It was something we just wouldn't have. I can't imagine not working with him.
You talk a lot about sadness and about these experiences being the sort of genesis of your songwriting. Do you feel you need that side? Do you feel a creative, an artist, a songwriter needs the tragic side in order to write?
Well, I can only talk from a subjective point of view, and I think every artist a writer, a painter, a filmmaker comes with their own agenda and is motivated through their own life experiences and whatever the mojo is that makes them want to express themselves. And for me, there was a lot of a kind of build-up of thoughts and feelings, and the majority of those thoughts and feelings were more on the dark side than on the bright side. So in a way, it was a way to sort of expunge these things, but at the same time, music is so beautiful, and I am so drawn to beautiful things and beauty in life too. So what I ended up understanding about the songs in retrospect was that they are a combination of light and shadow, and they are that kind of, it's a little bit of a cliche, but to say yin and yang, but that life itself is really, it exists through those contrasts.
And let's play a little clip from Sweet Dreams, because I think this was your first big hit, right? This was the blockbuster
Absolutely.
that launched the Eurythmics.
Yeah.
Let's play a clip and then we'll talk about it.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Sweet dreams.
So that is quite an image. There you are again with the orange hair, Dave doing his thing. But the imagery, the computers, the farm, the cows, what was all that about?
Well, when I'm looking at it now, I see that in a way, it's a view towards futurism. This, you can see that Dave is typing away. Actually, it's a prototype computer. And in a sense, we were like futurists.
And the dark and the light came into that too, because you were writing quite dark lyrics. And I think Dave said, listen, I gotta pep it up a little bit. What did he bring into it?
When we were writing Sweet Dreams, I think probably, you know, he saw sort of the sort of dark existentialism of the lyrics, and he said, "Oh, let's say move it on, you know, keep moving on, just to bring it so it's not completely like time to slit your wrist."
The other night, you were on stage in conversation and you sang 5 songs, and it was to celebrate 10 years since you started your woman's charity called The Circle. What made you want to do that, and what is it actually for?
There are so many reasons why I wanted to create something that would be a catalyst to gather Western women together to talk about the issues of girls and women living in the developing world. Because I had had the opportunity in my life to go to sub-Saharan Africa or other countries like, you know, in Latin America, where I saw poverty and how it affects women and girls specifically, and how it really truly disempowers them at every level. And I was so sort of changed by this. It completely changed my paradigm of viewing the world.
Well, you are quite shy about being political or calling yourself political in your music, I'm talking about, except for the next song that we're going to play. So there you are in duet with Aretha Franklin singing Sisters. That's your most overtly political song, and you did it a long time ago, more than 20 years ago.
Yes.
And what inspired you then?
I woke up one morning, and in my dreams, half dream state to waking up, I was thinking, I really want to write an anthem for women to celebrate how far we've come, you know. But I just don't think we've come far enough by any means. I mean, that's very evident to me. When you look at the UN Global Development Goals, and I think the gender equality is goal number 5, they say that the movement of development is glacially slow. And that's my experience too, actually.
And yet, I wonder if you agree that this last year has been a real power surge to this particular movement. Me Too, the reaction against Donald Trump, the whole women's marches all over the place.
Yes.
I mean, do you see this as a tipping point now?
If the vocalization, the platform, and the messaging really does create that tipping point, it must create a tipping point into action. And what the action is going to be is really important. And our other thing is, what are we going to do about men? Because we live with men, and they cannot be our enemies. Although men generally, from my experience, I would say not all men, but many men have a rather heinous approach to women and girls. There's no question about that, as we've seen. And the response to all the things that we know about is strong, because all of a sudden people said, no, we're not going to be talked about like that. Least of all from someone who has just become a president of the most powerful country in the world. This is a disgrace. And it was very encouraging to see women get off their seats and come out into the streets as one, all across cultures, all across colours and races and creeds. This is a gender thing. This is powerful. But I feel we need to be inclusive of men, and that men can be feminists.
Without a doubt, must
Yes,
be.
must be.
Yeah. And I just want to, because we're talking about activism, so I just want to move quickly onto Oxfam, because you've been a special ambassador for Oxfam, and you have resisted breaking up with them over the latest scandal, whereby they were alleged, and they've apologized for, using Haitian girls as sex objects, essentially, paying for sex.
Absolutely, yeah.
What do you think
Yes.
about it, how they've reacted to it, and why are you still with them?
Well, at first I was just appalled. I was so disappointed, because this is an organization that I have respected. Obviously, I wouldn't have worked with them all these years unless I had a profound respect for them. Nevertheless, these are incredibly serious allegations, and they took place, apparently. I mean, I'm sure they did. I waited for a while to respond. I didn't want to respond immediately, because I thought that would be something of too soon. You know, I didn't know truly what was the real truth, wasn't the truth. I watched how Oxfam responded, and I wasn't terribly impressed by their response at first, to be honest. And I think that they now have to really change they're forced now. They have to be so clean, so transparent, and they have to know exactly what to do. If ever there's even a whiff of anything that is untoward, they are going to have to be the squeakiest clean charitable organization, global charitable organization of everyone.
And a lot of these organizations...
All of
that are
them,
being-
all of them now. They're going to be taken to task.
But what about the awful counter effect? If people start boycotting them, if people like yourself, if ordinary donors who are so generous no longer give their money,
Well, that's the thing. That's
these
absolutely
Oxfam
right.
people don't suffer. It's the poor people in Haiti and around the world.
And Christiane, that was the conclusion that I reached, actually. At the end of the day, I thought there are billions, actually, not just millions, but there are billions of people without organizations like Oxfam whose lives totally depend, their lives depend on the work that these organizations do. And they shouldn't, and I use this term, throw the baby out with the bathwater, just because of a few heinous acts by some really untoward people in the organization.